Good morning to SSE students. Today is Wednesday, March 18, 2020. We're gonna start with a new unit, Unit 1, Nutrition and Health, specifically Chapter 2, the basic principles of balanced diet. To start with Activity 1, Food Supplies, please open your books to page 22. Components of food are divided into two types: organic matter and inorganic matter. Organic matter, for example, proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates. Inorganic matter is water, minerals, and vitamins. The first type of organic matter is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are considered to be energy food since they provide energy to the body. They are found in food like potato, wheat, honey, pasta, or bread. There are three types of carbohydrates. The first type is monosaccharides. In other words, they are called simple sugars. They are formed of one sugar unit, for example, glucose, fructose, or galactose. Another type of carbohydrates is the disaccharides. They are considered to be double sugars, which means they are formed of two sugar units. For example, maltose, which is made up of two glucose units, sucrose, which is made of one glucose and one fructose unit, and lactose, which is made up of one glucose and one galactose unit. The third type of carbohydrates are the polysaccharides. They are composed of more than two sugar units. For example, starch, which is made up of approximately 400 glucose molecules, or glycogen, which is made up of 2,000 up to 3,000 glucose molecules. In the neighboring document, you can see sketches of monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Another type of organic matter is proteins. Proteins are building food as they are used to build cells, muscles, and body organs. The building blocks of proteins are the amino acids. Proteins are found in meat, chicken, fish, egg white, and cheese. The last type of organic matter is lipids. They are energy food just like carbohydrates, as they produce a huge amount of energy to be used in the body. The building blocks of lipids are 3 molecules of fatty acids and 1 molecule of glycerol. Lipids are found in oil, butter, egg yolk, etc. A complex food is a type of food rich in all the organic matter, which means carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. The requirements and need of an organism is due to the fact that the different tissues of this organism are made up of inorganic and organic components. As a result, a complete nutriment would be recommended. A complete nutriment is a food that contains both organic and inorganic substances. Now, in order to start Activity 2, Quantitative Needs, Energetic Needs, please open your books to page 24. What is energy expenditure? Energy expenditure is the energy required to cover all the needs of the body. Energy is produced in the body mainly by the following oxidation reaction. Oxygen plus glucose gives carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. The primary molecule that is used by the body to produce energy is glucose. The energy obtained is directly proportional to the quantity of oxygen and the quantity of glucose, which means that The higher the amount of oxygen used, the higher the obtained energy is. And also, the higher the quantity of glucose used, the higher the quantity of energy produced. A rational diet is a diet that includes a balance between the quantity of eaten food and the energy expenditure. To calculate the energy expenditure, first of all, you need to know that the only molecules that are able to provide us with energy are the organic molecules. Studies have shown that the amount of energy obtained from 1 gram of each of the organic molecules are as follows. Keep in mind, kilojoule is the unit of energy. 1 gram of carbohydrates provides 17 kilojoules of energy. Similarly, 1 gram of proteins provides 17 kilojoules of energy. However, 1 gram of lipids provides 38 kilojoules of energy. On the other hand, the used oxygen is actually calculated by what we call the thermal coefficient, which is the amount of energy that is obtained after consuming 1 liter of oxygen. Under normal conditions, the thermal coefficient is 20 kilojoules per 1 liter of oxygen. The formula that is used to calculate the energy expenditure under normal conditions is as follows. Energy expenditure is equal to the volume of O2 having a unit of liter per kilogram per hour multiplied by 20 kilojoules per liter, which is the thermal coefficient. The obtained energy expenditure has a unit of kilojoules per kilogram per 1 hour. The volume of oxygen used in this formula is actually the volume of oxygen that is consumed in order to calculate the energy expenditure. To practice calculating the energy expenditure, application 1 is given. Calculate the energy expenditure if the consumed amount of oxygen is 11 liters per kilogram per hour. We just apply the formula that we just covered. The given is volume of oxygen used is 11 liters per kilogram per hour. The formula of energy expenditure is energy expenditure equals volume of O2 multiplied by the thermal coefficient, which is 20 kilojoules per liter, equals 11 times 20, which is equal to 220 kilojoules per kilogram per hour. However, if you were asked to calculate the volume of the consumed oxygen given the energy expenditure, as in application 2, calculate the volume of consumed oxygen if the energy expenditure is 425 kilojoules per kilogram per hour. The answer would be you write the formula energy expenditure equal volume of O2 multiplied by 20 kilojoules per hour, which is the thermal coefficient. The unknown here in this equation is the volume of O2, unlike the first application where the unknown was the energy expenditure. You isolate the unknown, volume of O2 equals energy expenditure divided by 20 kilojoules per liter, equals 425 divided by 20, which is equal to 21.25 kilojoules per kilogram per hour. A very important portion of the energy expenditure is the basal metabolism. What is the basal metabolism? It is the minimal energy required to cover the basic functions of the body, like respiration, excretion, hormonal function, etc. The basic needs. The conditions that are required to measure the basal metabolism are three. The individual has to fast for 20 hours to stop any digestive activity. Second, the individual has to be present in a neutral thermal temperature between 18 to 20 degrees Celsius in order to stop any thermoregulation. Thermoregulation is the regulation of the body to go back to the normal neutral temperature. Third condition is the resting period. The individual has to be placed in a resting period in order to stop the physical activity. These three conditions are required in order to purely calculate the basal metabolism. The basal metabolism by itself consists of 60% of the total energy expenditure. For example, if you were given the total energy expenditure, which is for example here 2500 kilojoules, then you can easily calculate the basal metabolism. It's 60%, which means 60 divided by 100, in other words 0.6, multiplied by the total energy expenditure, which is equal to 2500 kilojoules. 0.6 times 2500 is equal to 1500 kilojoules. In order to start with activity 3, qualitative requirements, energetic needs, please open your books to page 26. In this activity, we're gonna study the fate of two organic matters, carbohydrates and lipids. A very famous example of carbohydrates is starch. Starch is digested to obtain glucose. Glucose molecules, in their turn, they're gonna undergo oxidation reactions, which is going to produce energy required for the body. What happens in the case of excess or the lack of glucose from the living organisms? In the case of the excess of glucose, glucose will be stored. It can either be stored in the form of glycogen in liver cells, in which we call hepatocytes. Glycogen is also stored in the muscles. So glucose is stored in the form of glycogen either in liver cells or muscle cells, or glucose can be stored in the form of lipid in adipose tissue or what we call fat tissues. In the case of deficiency of glucose, energy needs to be obtained, needs to be produced. How are we able to produce energy? We are able to produce energy by producing glucose in three forms. The first way to obtain glucose is by using the glycogen of the liver. Glycogen is decomposed into glucose, which is going to be released into the blood. The second way is to obtain glucose from lipids of adipose tissues. Lipids in these tissues are going to decompose into fatty acids and glycerol, which is going to go to the liver, and in the liver, a process of transformation from fatty acids and glycerol to obtain glucose molecules, which is also going to be released into the blood. The third and the last way to obtain glucose is from proteins of muscles, by which these proteins are going to decompose into amino acids, which is also going to go to the liver, and in the liver a transformation process occurs from amino acids to glucose and therefore released into the blood. This process causes a decrease in the muscular weight of the organism. As for lipids, which are ingested by the body, are digested in order to form fatty acids and glycerol. Lipids are used in two ways. One, to produce energy, which is used during intense and durable exercises for the fact that they produce a huge amount of energy. 2. Synthesis of structural lipids. They are used, for example, for the structure of the cell membrane, for the vitamin production, for certain hormones like the sex hormones. These are considered essential fatty acids. As a result, any deficiency in lipids can cause vitamin deficiency and sex hormones deficiency. Please keep in mind to copy all the previous slides, all the slides on your copybook. Thank you.